In this video, I'm just going to discuss the main way the low back gets injured from shoveling. We just had a big snowstorm come through. I'm going to go over the 3 best exercises that I can think of to really kind of reset your body from shoveling over the weekend. The main muscle that gets overused from shoveling is going to be that lat, which makes sense. It basically connects your shoulder to your low back, and it connects all the way down into the pelvis here, and it will pull you into this position. So it will kind of pull your pelvis forward and it will pull your shoulder back and down. So it makes sense that if you're doing a lot of shoveling, you're typically grabbing with the right hand underneath, and the motion's typically up and back. So that's just a lot of like lat activity. And just over time, doing it over and over and over again, it's gonna pull you into a pattern that you might get stuck in. It could create low back pain, pelvic pain, shoulder pain, almost anything of that nature. And these are just probably the best ways to try to reset your body from that pattern. All right, if the goal of the first exercise we're gonna start off with is an overhead hang. The goal of the overhead hang, one of the main goals of the overhead hang, is to inhibit that lat. Unfortunately, you can do a hang where you don't really inhibit the lat. And what would happen is you have your arms in this overhead position, but while you're overhead, you're still kind of curved through that low back. So you don't really get lat inhibition until these ribs start to come down and your low back starts to flatten out. Now this would be more of an example of an overhead hang with lat inhibition. The easiest way to do it is with a chair or something to elevate the knees. So I would basically grab onto something overhead, put my legs so that I can get my hips in this like flex position, and then just allow my body to sink in. And then when I exhale, I want to feel my ribs come down. And it's that downward pressure of the ribs that really starts to inhibit my lat. And then once I'm there, I want to breathe into that position and feel like this whole area is expanding when I inhale. You don't have to put your feet up on something. You could have your feet on the ground. But same thing, you want to feel that rib compression. So you have ab activation as opposed to having that low back flared back, because then you're not really inhibiting that lat. So basically, one of the easiest ways to get into that lat inhibition, you grab onto something, come into this position, you exhale, then inhale from here, exhale, and you want to do that about 4 or 5 breaths. The other big thing is making sure, like, of all the pieces of equipment for people to have in their home, something to hang from is one of the most crucial. It's worth buying something from Dick's or just having something at home, just because if you start doing the math, there's a lot of times you could go a long time without really even bringing your arm over your head, and humans were meant to brachiate. So if we don't hang, that's a huge movement pattern that you're missing out on in your daily life. So if you don't have something, go get something, because there's so many things you can do with having your arms overhead like that. All right, so if you don't have a bar to hang from, the next easiest exercise in order to inhibit that lat is to just do some sort of a reaching activity. And you could pretend like this is a doorway here. I'm gonna take my left foot, I'm gonna line it up with the doorway. I'm gonna take my right hand, and I'm just gonna grab the doorway, and I'm putting tension through my arm. All right, so I'm kind of pulling back on that doorway right here. So I'm in this position, I'm gonna step back, and then I'm gonna step back with my right foot, keep my right arm long, and then I wanna create this compression here, just like that. And that opens up my entire right side. So I'm here, I'm gonna step back, make my right side long, and try to breathe into that right side and feel like when I inhale, my right arm gets longer. That's a pretty easy exercise to do. I would say it's probably not as effective as the overhead hang, but it is a nice, easy way that everyone can do, because everyone has a doorway at home, to start to get that lat to inhibit. The next exercise for inhibiting that lat is going to be a seated bar reach. This one's actually pretty simple. It's not, doesn't test your grip strength like overhead hanging does, but it's a nice way to just get your back to calm down. And it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna take a bar and hold it in both hands. I'm gonna kind of just sit back on my heels. I might need to put something underneath my butt just to elevate me if it's too hard for me to sit back down on my heels. And I'm just gonna take this bar and I'm just gonna reach forward with it. And now from here, I'm going to exhale. And now inhale and make my back longer. And this is a good way to get that lat to turn off. It eventually turns into doing more of like a squat position. So if I was in this position, this is kind of the same thing. So in order to, if you can get that lat to turn off, it'll make it easier for you to get into that nice flex squat position. But that kneeling version is a good way, especially if your lat is really tightened up from a lot of shoveling recently. Thanks.